start. So have you ever heard of Help a Reporter Out?
No, but you got 3 seconds. Sorry, we're about to go live. Here we go.
Okay,
Hey, we're live on YouTube. Wave to the
perfect.
people. Um, so hi, thank you for coming. A lot of you can probably hear us chit-chatting in the background. My name's Tom Britton. I'm a performer in Chicago. I do 3 shows. I do the Seance, I do Freak Show and Tell, and I do Dangerous Circus. I've produced other theater, and at one point I even owned my own theater. I accidentally fell into the role of marketing guru just because I was able to not be famous and get a couple hundred people to come see a show on occasion. And all my friends who were professional entertainers bugged me about how I was doing it, so I started explaining it to them. I threw this together on my YouTube channel, and my buddy, my partner in this conversation will be Daniel Chan. Daniel, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me, Tom. So I have been doing magic since 1999. I've done about 5,000 plus shows. Started off with standard birthday parties for close to 10 years, did library schools, and now I am doing mainly corporate events. My family performs with me. My wife does rope escape with me, the Falkenstein and Williard rope escape. My son juggles 5 balls, 3 flaming torches, and he's starting to pickpockets. And we have a video of him actually executing on a pickpocket steal that's real.
How old
The
is
first
he?
time
How old
he
is
tried
he?
it, he's 12 years old. He
Oh,
started street performing when he was 5.
that's adorable.
Yeah, so I'll post a link there. Perhaps you can see him. He was recently on Kids Say the Darndest Things. So he's kind of taking over my kids' birthday party market. I send him out. I run a sound for him whenever I don't have anything. Otherwise, auntie or mom drives him to do gigs.
Gotcha. And you've got a lower third, by the way, that is danchanmagic.com. Could they find links to the video there as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a chat here that we can
Yeah.
write in the YouTube, or is it here?
Uh,
Where can we write that in?
Yeah, if you're on the live page of the YouTube, you can type it, but sometimes it truncates.com because it doesn't want you posting porn. So you may have to write, like, say if you do Dan Chan and then write the DOT com
Okay.
with a space to fool the computer. As people last time we're trying to get them to put their website in so we could look at their website. And some people had problems. I think it depends on how many subscribers you've got, how legitimate YouTube thinks you are as a human, and
Yes.
not a Russian spam bot. He's trying to get us to go watch dirty movies. But yeah, give it a shot, and if not, I can always add it in the comments. Common question is, will this be recorded? Yeah, I'll leave this up until we do another one a year or 2 from now to update it. But there's no reason to have this just be live and then go into the ether. As I was telling you prefer Daniel or Dan, by the way?
Dan is fine.
Dan, okay. I was telling Dan earlier that the majority of people will see this later. So those few of you in chat, you get the VIP access to the 2 of us.
Yeah. So in the chat, I'm posting the link to. It says remove any web addresses and try again. So I'll figure out how to get that to you. If you just Google BuzzFeed Silicon Valley's favorite magician, that was pretty much the article that changed my career. I had a really strong corporate following beforehand, but that really solidified my market presence in the Bay Area.
If you'll remind me, I'll put that into comments so people watching in the future, it'll be, I'll kind of, if we start doing a lot of that, like citing links, so to speak, I'll put the source materials somewhere in the comments of YouTube, tonight.
Yeah. So I've been spending a lot of money on Google AdWords, Facebook ads. I've spent $15,000 on each of those platforms independently, which is, pretty normal for a corporate entertainer, I guess.
Per year or total? Are you talking about a lifetime?
Within recently, it's within a time period, but it's not lifetime. Lifetime's a little bit more than that.
Gotcha.
So, and I realized that news articles were the way to go, especially for me, especially after this news article hit. Every time I would get a news article, I would get a lot more bookings. With this article, it pretty much raised my asking rates significantly, and I did not have to negotiate as much with people.
Isn't that nice when they just call you with a price? So great. When they're like, oh, that's fine. That's well within our budget. And you're like, okay, thank you. Bye.
Exactly.
See you Monday.
That made a lot easier for me to, charge what I was worth. And that was one of the competitive advantages that I felt I really needed. So in the beginning, it was all about gimmicks. So like I would stuff my son in a 6 foot tall balloon. We rarely do that anymore. He doesn't want to do that. We would do things like pickpocketing and iPhone tricks and things that would sound great. I rarely do these things now because
Wait, where
when
were
you
you
have a
doing
brand,
those? Where were you doing like iPhone tricks? You mean like as press stunts or like in the street as an ad?
well, this is what I would sell to bookers. So having different
Gotcha. So I would hire you to come
niches.
to my event, but instead of doing a show, I just say just do your little shtick, and basically you're getting me in the newspaper. Then is the point?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
the thing is, I wanted to have a differentiator. So these differentiators also allow you to get into the media. So if you're pitching in media, you need to know what makes you worthy to get pitched. So for me in the beginning, it was like, oh, I had a dog. So I'd say, oh, Dan performs with his dog and his wife.
Okay, so you're using this as the hook to
Hooked.
get you in the paper previous to this other thing you were talking about with LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Okay, got it,
and
got it,
they
got it.
work
Okay,
in
gotcha.
conjunction with each other because once you pitch someone, they still need some content. Why do they want to pitch you? So the big one for me when I was pitching LinkedIn was I started off pitching everything for free. And I recommend you do everything for free before you start paying for LinkedIn Sales Navigator and LinkedIn Recruiter. I've bought both of those. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is $79 a month for 20 contacts. That means that you'll end up in 20 inboxes. It's really important that you end up pitching people that are really qualified and writing something really detailed out because you're spending, I think, $4 a contact per email. So you don't want
Yeah,
to
right
spam
at.
people.
Yeah. Now, real quick, in the chat, this is where you can chime in. We are assuming everyone is vaguely familiar with LinkedIn here, but if you're, I don't know, if you're a person who from a foreign country that and you're like, I don't even know what a LinkedIn is, like me referencing Orkut outside of Brazil or something. There's very hyper socialized, specialized stuff. I'm watching the chat while he's talking, so if we do hit a point like that, but for right now, we're gonna either assume you know how to basically get a LinkedIn profile and what the heck that is. It's essentially YouTube for grown-ups. Sorry, Facebook for grown-ups. If that happens at any point, that's when you just type in a question. I'm kind of looking at the chat, and if I'm running my mouth, he'll be looking at the chat, and we'll kind of keep you up. But okay, so we get a LinkedIn profile. You recommend we just get the regular profile like any normal muggle first. Then the first one is $80 for 20 contacts. And you're paying because LinkedIn doesn't allow you to go beyond so many degrees of Kevin Bacon, if you will. I can't message a friend of a friend of a. How far deep can I go? Free. How deep can I go? And then how much with
Yeah.
$80 a
It,
month?
I think it changes sometimes, but it'll say before you message them how many in credits it'll require, or it says this is out of your network. So the first time I advertised in LinkedIn, this is the reason why I went on. I saw a reporter I wanted to pitch, and I went online looking for them. I went to their website. I went to
Yeah, I've done
everything. I
that too.
couldn't
Yeah,
pitch them.
yeah,
So I tried pitching them on Twitter. Tried to pitch them everywhere, but I knew that that was the type of reporter that I wanted. And I don't even remember whether it's they wrote an article on a magician or they wrote an article on. I knew that I would have unique insights, and even if the article didn't go through, he would enjoy hearing what I had to say.
yeah. And that's a good point. Is that sometimes you pitch nothing, pitch nothing, pitch nothing, pitch nothing, but you actually are developing a relationship without knowing it. Even though it looks like to you you're failing, they'll respond to quick, like almost feels like copy paste. Like, hey, thanks so much for the idea. Not looking for a, well, in my case, I should form a magician, hypnotist, whoever we're talking to. Probably mostly magicians, by the way, so mostly your people will represent at least the chat. But we're not looking for a burlesque performer right now. But you get on their radar. So it actually the sixth time you pitch, you get through.
Yeah, and the reason why I started paying for this was I actually ran an ad on LinkedIn. I ended up paying $100 for a freaking click.
Yeah. But
The
you
one,
said that BuzzFeed one changed your life though, so I guess it's kind of just like playing the lottery with a slightly bigger price tag, and better odds. I guess I don't think you're ever going to win the lottery. I know enough math to know that. But if there's 10 newspapers and 5 magicians in your town, you might be the magician in your newspaper. And you're in a big city, you have 10. I guess in small towns they have one. Yeah, $100. I'd roll the dice, sure.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I realized it was $100 for a click, so I was like, why are people on this platform? And I started studying the platform. But I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft. So it's a Microsoft company. So that's one thing that you guys want to know, that it is a Microsoft company. And it's something that you want to check out, play around with it. I have a specific pitch that I send to reporters that I customize. I might say something like, hey, I read this article about you talking about virtual conferences. So I have a COVID pitch, and I have all these pitches, but I leave something really short, and I use text shortcuts. So if I type BZZ on my text, it'll send the URL of the BuzzFeed article. So I'm repurposing that because it's a lot more important if someone talks about you versus you talk about yourself. My website's always going to look great, but if a third-party reporter covers me, it has a lot more credibility because it's social proof from someone on the outside.
It legitimizes you, number one, but also it shows, if I were that reporter, you know how to talk to the media. I deal with this, with what we're doing right now. I've talked to people who were not media savvy on YouTube. I'm like, dude, don't you watch crap like this? I watch podcasts all the time that look exactly like this, two dudes talking. So it shows some media savvy, and it shows, hey, I've played in this field, especially with BuzzFeed. It shows I've played in the bigs before. I got a lot of stuff from Chicago, which I guess is arguably, but like the Sun Times or whatever, but I've never been on the Today Show or the Oprah Show back in the 90s. If I'd done one of those, then all of a sudden the Steve Harvey Show goes, well, he's been here before. Let's put him on America's Got Talent as a featured guest, whatever they do. All right, so you said there were two on LinkedIn, though, didn't you? So is that paid and unpaid? Is that what you meant? Or is there
there's actually your LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is a sales navigation thing, and a LinkedIn Recruiter.
Okay, so Recruiter's the one you were talking about that's $79 a month.
No, Sales Navigator is $79. They're both paid solutions. So I'll go back and forth.
Yeah, please, just because I've only barely used LinkedIn, and I'm afraid that I'm in a boat with hopefully a few other morons like me. So real quick, walk me through the three, and then hit me with the numbers.
Well, the two paid things are ways to contact people, but you can also search for people. Within the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I can put a search for New York Times, and then there's filters. And you can do that through the normal portion, but it actually helps you dig down deep. So as we're talking about it, I'm going to look it up. It lets you to filter through past leads and account activity, geography, relationship, whether it's first, second, or third degree connections. And certain times when you're in these sales navigation platforms, it'll still be a free thing. It just lets you dig deep. So if it's a first or second, you're still, let me look at the first second. I just look at what's free, and then if I have to pay for it, I spend a lot more time crafting the pitch. If it's free, I just send them a little bit more generic, but I'll still customize a little bit. But if you're paying $4 a click, you got to make that worthwhile, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So that's how I approach it. I probably should spend a lot more time doing it, but we only have a limited amount of time. You can look at the company headcount. You can look at the seniority level. So like if they are an owner of a company, you can check that out. How many years they've been in there. Like if they're a senior editor, like I can search by a title. So there's specific search functions where everything is in a very, very advanced search. Normally when you're just hitting search, you're just typing in a search bar. Here, there's criteria that you can fit into every single level. So for me, I look at New York Times. I want to be on the Wall Street Journal. I want to be on these certain places, and I'll pitch these reporters. But I also look at places like Haro, like Help a Reporter Out, which is a little bit like a lower quality lead stream.
And
but
before we went live, you started to describe that, and I had to cut you off because the software kicked us on the air, if you were. What's Help a Reporter Out? If you can do that I don't want to interrupt, but quick sidebar and then go back to what you were saying.
Help a Reporter Out sends several emails out every day, depending on what industry you're in. Okay? So they will ask for pitches, and you'll respond to them. They're time sensitive, so it's really important that you email them immediately after you see it. And I have a keyboard shortcut that says Haro. So when I type HARO, it ends up pre-populating this thing saying, hey, I wrote a couple of details in here. If you would like to discuss further, we can discuss further. because not all pitches will be a fit. So I'll write something kind of customized, then I'll link something to several articles that were written about me, like Thrive Global or some other things. And I say, if you are interested, give me a call and we can rewrite an article and I'll spend the time. Because if you're pitching someone, you're only going to get something like 3-4% response rate, and you don't want to spend a lot of time. So these are time savers when you type in these keyboard shortcuts. On Apple, it's really easy to do. You just write like KWW, or you type in something and it types in a full sentence for you. And I have these, so I'll automate it. So I'll have like these key phrases that I can kind of choose and pick to pitch these reporters through Help a Reporter Out. So everyone's like, everyone on Help a Reporter who's in my industry knows who I am because I've pitched them so many times. So I'm getting better at pitching them every single time I talk to them.
And they almost help you when they reject you. They're generally very nice, very professional. They're not dicks. It's not like they go next. They're usually nice. But also in the rejection, if you're listening, they almost tell you what you did wrong, which sometimes is just you were too late, nothing you could do about that, or they weren't looking for you right now. But sometimes they'll tell you like, hey, this is great. This is more of a thing for fall. And so they'll give you almost like breadcrumbs to start. So that relationship kind of refines over time, I've found. With the reporters, don't usually, because they do type so fast. Usually their rejection letters are like a paragraph. They'll give you like a quick 3 sentences, and they know that they're trying to build relationships too. If they're a professional reporter, they don't want to be a jerk when they reject you, because they want you to keep pitching me. I want your data coming.
Yeah. And another reason why I started pitching media was I looked into PR firms, and a lot of them wanted like $5,000, $2,500 to $5,000 a month. So that's kind of ridiculous for most magicians, unless you're a Copperfield or David Blaine. And when you're that level, if you pitch someone, they're gonna have you on their
publicists, but they have the budget. But also, I have the budget because I'm doing a tour, so I can bake it into a tour budget. But if you don't think like, so I do a theater show. So I'm really not a variety performer. I'm really a theater performer. I compete with Bloody Alexander Hamilton, Bloody Andrew Jackson, Late Night Catechism. I never see another vaudeville performer. I've never seen a burlesque show in a theater, a magician in a theater, a juggler in a theater, ever. It's just me and a bunch of one-man shows. But I tour. So I could say, and I did this before, $1,200 for a publicist for this tour, $1,000 for Facebook ads for this tour. But all the publicists probably doing is what you're doing. They're probably just using a bit of my money to buy a month of LinkedIn. That's the thing. You can buy just a month, right? You're not signing a contract with LinkedIn.
Yep.
So I could say at the beginning of Halloween season, if I'm a busy, horror magician, I'm sorry, I don't really know. Other than birthday magicians, I don't really know how magicians work in corporate. But if I'm a busy, say, Valentine's Day gimmick, I could just buy in January and start pitching, or in December to start pitching for February, right?
Yeah. So what I would recommend is paying 1 month for Sales Navigator and paying one for Recruiter Profile and seeing what you like. I currently like the Sales Navigator because of the functionality, but the Recruiter is on a little bit different platform, and there's a couple of differences, and it's geared toward recruiters. So like if you were a Recruiter Profile, I would look at people who are writing articles short term for like USA Today, and they're contractors. And if I'm looking at the people who are full-time staff, I would use the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Does that kind of make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's basically A/B test it for the same $80 a month, 2 months in a row. It's not a huge investment on how, right now people are going to be broke. We've been, quarantined. But certainly put it in your hopper for the future. Everyone who's watching, it's certainly a thing you could look towards doing as we move forward.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get your pitch the right time. You're probably going to take it a while, and you don't want to waste a lot of money. So what I would recommend doing is turn it on just for 1 month, and then turn the other one for a month, and then stop for a year. Think about what your story is. Because you're going to suck at pitching. You're going to really suck. Go DM people on Twitter. Go on people's Facebook. You can talk to the corporations, but a lot of times it goes through this filter. But like once you start using LinkedIn, start contacting people that have words like segment producer. Okay? CBS morning show segment producer. in your geography, those are the people you want to contact, because those are the guys who are starting. If you're contacting news anchors,
Right.
they're not
Dan
in front
Rather
of.
doesn't need your help.
Yeah. Well, they don't even care, because someone's directing them. They're like a puppet.
Right.
They know how to read a teleprompter, but they don't do the research behind that. They're the voice of the company, but they're not the brain behind the company.
That's brilliant. Let's put a pin in it real quick, just because I want to move on to focusing on the pitch part of it, because I think that's where a real strength where you're. But so this is not an ad, by the way. I don't do ads. We pay William, not the other way around. This is the opposite of an ad. William helped promote this thing with using Well Attended. And so two things you need to know. One, you got to sell tickets online. You can't exist in an all cash society, you weird pirate. You have to take ticket sales in advance and sell at your shows. So definitely give a look at Well Attended. It's software. William himself is a mentalist and a magician and a performer and a software nerd. So those are huge boons. Also, working with a company that you can call the owner of. This happened with me, Dan. I sold merch. When you buy a ticket, there's a few places to do this now. When you buy a ticket, you can have it kicked to a page that said, would you like to buy a t-shirt also? How about a magic kit? How about, in my case, a VIP envelope? As a goof on Well Attended, I put, yeah, sure, the VIP envelope's $5. I sell them after the show. I don't know why you would buy one before you've seen me. I'm not famous. So you usually don't really know what you've bought until you see my 90-minute one-man show. Then you go, oh, now I want this guy's tchotchkes. But I ended up selling enough to pay my rent off of merch pre-sale. Turns out people will throw for $5. I think the price helps too. They bought 2 tickets, throw in an envelope. The problem was at the door, as I was looking through the well-attended list, to check people off. Oh, Daniel Chan. Okay, right here. Got you to enjoy the show. I couldn't easily tell who had bought an envelope and who hadn't. I had to click each one and look. I told William. He put it in the request hopper and warned me, sometimes these things take a while. Not everybody is griping about it, so he'll get to me. I mean, a month later, that little icon next to your name. So if you bought something, it tells me, a little flag. Oh, cool, Daniel's here. He's got 2 tickets. Oh, but also he bought some, let me look, 2 t-shirts. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show. So that's just a little trade we are doing just because he helped promote so much. Wellattended.com, also free resources. Wellattended.com/blog. A lot of what we're going to get into now in phase 2, now that you know what LinkedIn does, which, by the way, thanks for that. I had zero idea that LinkedIn had any of these features for $80 a month, which is, I can't do it every month, but I can certainly do it for 2 or 3 months and learn the software. If you go to wellattended.com/blog, how to write a press release, how to pitch TV producers, stuff we're going to cover now. Get a different opinion, first of all, other than the 2 of us, but also listen for an hour as William and somebody talk about how they did it. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not a magician, I'm not a sideshow performer, I don't do theaters, find that on the blog. You'll find someone who's a hypnotist, burlesque performer. And then one last thing, as long as we're in commercial zone, I'm doing this on YouTube. You see, in 15 days, 4 hours, 36 minutes, and 50 seconds, Jonathan Pritchard and I are going to do, this is a show, though, this thing. This is us reading Harry Houdini's A Magician Among the Spirits. Jonathan is a magician and performer in the seance. I do the history of spiritualism. We're doing that free on YouTube Live as a show. We're going to read it. Not all of it. It's like 3,000 pages, like 300 pages, 3,000 pages on a Kindle. But we're going to do excerpts from it that's interesting. And then some of it I need to explain to you because, like, the history makes no sense. Others, though, he's a magician. So if Houdini's talking about doing a thing, forgive me, I don't know magic. I'm about to make Dan's head explode. The thumb with a dove with the card up my sleeve. Jonathan will break that down and either show it to you without telling you the secret, because he's a magician, but here's what it would look like. Isn't that cool? Doesn't that blow your mind? That's how they bend silverware. Isn't that neat? Other things, he'll literally expose it because it's in the public domain. He's like, no, they would do this thing where they'd rig the table and it would tilt and they'd say it was a ghost. So, and yes, Shelley, Jonathan is the best. You're absolutely right. And the 2 of us are doing this. It's from a show we've done on stage a lot of times. And this is just one of the source materials. We just thought it'd be kind of cool to do. That's it. There's your commercials. They're all for free. I don't even know if it's a commercial. We're the worst businessmen ever, Dan. So now I want to walk into, all right, so we got the LinkedIn idea. And if you are tuning in, this will be recorded. So don't worry. We've covered some material. This will be on YouTube for you. Now let's say you got your foot in the door. Describe it as in the room. So you've already hit on a lot of this in your process. But what are so segment producer is a good thing to look for, not news anchor. You can sort by your region using these features on LinkedIn. What are some tips that you've learned for like hooking them? So you say you tried gimmicks. Are some gimmicks better than others?
Let me backtrack a little bit
Please.
as well,
Yeah.
because I think I neglected a couple of things. In the dashboard in the Sales Navigator, you can see a lot more about the person. So once you're in a dashboard, go on the side and click. You can see their website or Twitter account sometimes. So from there, DM them through Twitter before you contact them through LinkedIn, so you save that $4. So if you see their website, go to their website first, because now you're saving a lot of money. That's a hint for those of you staying a little bit later. When they reply back to you, guess what? You get a credit back. So if you get convinced, and I learned this the hard way, because I try to create more things where they would DM me back even if they weren't interested.
Yeah.
So try to trick them into sending you a message, like offer them tickets to the Magic Castle or do something else, because once they email you back, you get back $4. You get back another contact, because if you reply, it shows that you're not spamming, or it shows that it's legitimate so that's how they look at their data and analytics, because LinkedIn is a smaller scale, but the funnel is a lot more qualified because people are a lot more serious. It also shows in the LinkedIn if the account user has been active. So it'll actually say there's no activity associated with this LinkedIn account. So maybe, and this is my guess, someone said, oh, Warren Buffett's not in here, but we want him on there. So that way people will say Warren Buffett's on this thing, or profile, or Mark Cuban. So certain real high-end people, they are active. And once you see that in LinkedIn, it's powerful, because you're like, hey, this is going into their inbox. It's just you didn't give them the right pitch. So I have people asking me now, friends that I consult with, because I just want them to help. I want them to help. I want to help them because I know they're so good. I want to move them out of my market. I want to get them publicity, because I'm not a inventor or creator of magic. I just am a marketer, and I can help people with the marketing, but I can't help you create magic. I just know how to pitch things just a little bit better, because I spent a lot more time on LinkedIn than you did. And it's not that I'm better than anyone. It's just I found this through research. And because I live in Silicon Valley, sometimes these people have contacted me through LinkedIn and stayed in contact with me through LinkedIn after they booked me. So sometimes if you position yourself as a celebrity, the human resource manager will start following you on LinkedIn. And that's the only reason why I started to go into...
And then you save the money there too. If they started following you, it's a free connect now, right?
Yep.
Because you're literally, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out different ways to get more engagement on Facebook, because I'm trying to exit the magic. Magic has been my life. I love it, but I want to scale what I have with the global reach. And quite frankly, I'm not as passionate about magic as I was back then.
Oh, God. What are you moving into? What are you trying to
do? Playing with things. I spent a lot of time neglecting my personal health, a lot of times my family. I'm trying to really be a family person, spearfish more, be next Warren Buffett, invest in a lot of stocks.
Okay,
I have a business admin degree, and I worked at PayPal pre-IPO in the same offices as Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. I worked there 13 months pre-IPO. I have a good finance background. I just never used it. I was like, just ended up, for some reason, ending up going toward magic, because that was the lowest hanging fruit for me, because I didn't have the soft skills to really work my way up when I was that young. I didn't realize. I knew things were happening there, but I wasn't passionate about making bank deposits and doing finance their way, because I was a follower, not a leader. Gotcha. So when you're an entrepreneur, you want to lead. So it wasn't a good fit, but I realized that there was so much happening at PayPal when I was there.
Yeah, no, that was a dynamic. That was a heck of a startup. A lot of stuff came out of the PayPal waters. Like the same thing happened with Apple Computer and Facebook. It germinated a lot of. Have you pitched a lot of television producers?
Yeah,
Forgive me.
We pitched Kids Say the Darndest Things. My son was on Kids Say. I look at what's my strengths.
That was done by Groucho Marx and then Bill Cosby, and then they rebooted it.
And it's now with Tiffany Haddish.
It's currently on.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Sorry, I'm not a.
I don't know.
I'm such a bookish hipster snob. I didn't watch the television. I only
To
watched
be
the
honest, I
Netflix
didn't
and the
know
black and white
until like
films.
I didn't even know that, but we were thinking of pitching Steve Harvey's show and things along those lines. So I didn't even know about it until I think they contacted me, or I just started jumping around on the web and figuring this stuff out.
I guess that'd be another lesson too. Is like, so I don't have kids, right? So I don't watch children's programming ever, or it's never like on the TV and my kids in the room, blah blah. So a friend of a friend, Sam, the guy does Sem Cycle. His kid, of course, rides a unicycle and juggles. Is an amazing kid. And I was doing some work with Sam and his family, and they were talking about, oh, he just did the Steve Harvey thing. I live in Chicago, where that guy films all of his stuff. And I was like, well, Steve Harvey's got a what now? Like a huge summer show that, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. When it was on the first time, everyone was watching it. Or those first 2 seasons of American Idol, everyone was watching it except this hipster douchebag. And I was like, wait, what? What show? What are they doing? They're selling children? What's happening? So another thing is get outside your bubble before you start pitching producers. Literally, you said a name of a lady who's hosting the show. Never heard of her. I'm sure she's like a Kardashian. She's super famous. There's the John Legend's wife is apparently somebody. Never heard of her. No idea. 20 billion people a week watch her. So some education might help before you pitch the television producers too, because you don't want to be in a meeting with someone who is the current Oprah Winfrey and you don't know who she is. Now
yeah, that's exactly what I got my kids to do. We didn't know anything about it because we don't watch television either. And I ended up telling my kids, watch Kids Say the Darndest Things. And I didn't realize that she has a book, and I was going to get my kids to read her book, but there's a lot of cussing in that book.
Oh, God.
And then she's also, if you look at her YouTube.
Is she a stand-up? Is that why? She a stand-up who went to host? What did she do?
She was a stand-up comedian.
That's why. I can tell from the cussing. Hosting. Yeah, it's...
And she's been on a lot of television shows, and she's done voiceovers for like Disney movies and a lot of other movies. But Tiffany Haddish, you can look her up. And the only reason why we even knew about it was we were pitching her show. So I was like, you're going to be on stage with her, so you're going to need to know how she reacts. So she's like, you're going to do this to me? You're going to walk off my show? And she said that to my son, and he had the best reaction because he wasn't fazed by it, because he knew how she was going to treat the guest. So he has the funniest reactions, and I wish more of what he said made it to air, because they filmed a lot more that was cut, and it was absolutely hilarious. They hired him as talent, but my kid's got some personality.
Gotcha. Back your microphone up a little bit. It's getting hot. Yeah, not that far, just a little bit. So walk us through the process. So for booking that, if someone wanted that exact same goal, someone said, hey, my kid has this killer thing, and if we could go viral, we could book a bunch of state fairs and birthday parties, right? So 1, you do LinkedIn free, learn the waters. 2, you sign up for the paid version and then unsign up and then take a while to digest to learn how to pitch properly after some failure. So now let's say you're in year 2, you've got the show in mind, you've done your research like you did. You got a vague idea. Like, I love Steve Harvey. I've watched him for 20 years. I watched him on a Showtime at the Apollo when he's hosted the amateur stuff. I know this guy. My kid's going to kill with Steve in the room. Now I go walk me through that. So in the search, what am I searching for to get on like a Steve Harvey show, an Ellen show, or a Kids Say the Darndest Things show? Still segment producer?
Yeah, there's people who book shows. There's also people who produce shows, like showrunners. So you want to, first of all, have your technical talent available. Like, they're not going to host you. They're not even going to be interested in you unless you have some technical talent. So that's why I started my son juggling 5 balls. Like, when he was like 6 years old, he was already juggling 5 balls, because people are going to be like, oh, he can learn quickly.
Okay.
If you can learn quickly, or you can read a script, you just have to learn the art of storytelling. And I think it's Michael Weber that says, he who tells the best story in life wins.
Okay.
And if you understand the power of storytelling, you can really connect with these show producers and showrunners. So just look online and you'll find the people who do Little Big Shots. I'm going to do that right now. I want to see
who's the Steve Harvey show, right? Okay, yes. Yeah. And I can tell you guys, while he's looking up this one, so I've done this a lot with local media, but I'm in a major market. So I'm in Chicago. This works for local media in Chicago and in New Orleans, which is a proper small, it's a medium-sized city, but it runs like a small town. when you email them, I pitch them several specific ideas. And this series originally, Putting Butts in Seats, used to be called Wear Makeup on the Radio. And it started with the idea of, in the year 2003, people were going into radio with the idea of to do radio interviews as if it were like the old, I got a face for radio. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, baby, you're all on camera now. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Live. This started with Don Imus was on MSNBC in the morning with some crappy camera in the corner, and they're just recording a show with a giant microphone in front of his face. It was terrible television. It's exactly what the Howard Stern show looks like now when it's being broadcast. When I saw that, I knew they were all going to be doing that because they follow the leader in that industry. Big time follow the leader. And so if you are a KISS tribute band, put the makeup on, baby. The whole suit for radio. I go in dressed as, well, I dress up anyway in life, but if I were a gentleman juggler, I'd do the bow tie and the tuxedo. You're a burlesque performer? Full face, baby. Full face. And take that one step further. Magicians, fire eaters. I'm the best fire eater ever to be on the radio. Not since Edgar Bergen did ventriloquism on the radio. Have you seen as fine a radio performer of visual arts as I? Who cares? It's fire eating on the radio. What do you hear? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, photos after the show. Their producers are chirping in their ear constantly to make a medium they don't care about. They're radio producers. They're radio announcers. They're a radio guy. They don't want to do TV. They hate TV, and they're probably kind of a big guy with a goatee and not a great smile. They have a face for radio and a voice for loving. They love that. So I pitch news segments with your anchor. They're all ego. They're all walking id, these folks. You are going to help me help you go viral. I'm going to make this thing appear in your hand, or in my case, you're going to stand on my face while my face is in broken glass, and you can do the weather. And you can freak out and almost pass out the entire time. You. That's how you hook in to get on their show. How do you fit on their show as a guest is by making their show look amazing. And I always pitch them specifics. Here's what I'm doing, and then idea 1, idea 2, idea 3. And then I'm always talking to a producer, never the person, like you said. I'm always talking to some segment producer of some sort. Local news people wear more than one hat. So often he's also the guy putting the microphone on me. It's a segment producer. And they'll respond to one. So you were saying about little big shots?
Okay, so type in the comment bar what is your dream, what you want to dream about. What's your dream medium? Like if it's Fortune or if it's somewhere else, let me know what that is. I might do a search for you guys and tell you a couple of things about who I'm going to do a live search, find out who these people are. But while we're doing that, I'm going to tell you a couple of people I see in my LinkedIn navigator, like Sherris McDonald. It says producer, Little Big Shots, starring Melissa McCarthy at NBC Universal. It says 8 months in role in company. Past role, development associate, unscripted and scripted at Warner Brothers Television International. If I click on it, it'll show me a lot more about her. She's a third degree link. There's other people with second degree. There's Abrisa Hernandez, associate producer, NBC Little Big Shots, 11th month role in company. See, when you see that 11-month and 8-month or 7th month or line producer or post-production, you have to think, what is it like to be in their position and what sort of influence they have in that company? Sometimes it's like, can you show this? Or you just make a friendship with them and then they become your first because you just got your way in for a friend of a friend. So you have to think long-term and strategically. So getting in the door might be a little bit harder because people are constantly pitching and especially you want to hit up these producers right after you hear what I'm teaching because so few people are doing it. I feel it's effective now. Later on, if everyone's doing it, it's going to change the dynamic of how LinkedIn uses it because some of you guys are going to end up spamming these guys. Some of you are going to end up hiring me to consult for you about saying, hey, I don't have the time. I'm making $2,500 a show. I don't mind spending $250 for a phone consultation because there's different people. Most people will do it. They'll get some value out of it. But then the real good performers, they just hire someone or they run with it because if you're focused on your show, focus on what you're good with. I'm focused on pitching people. That's because I enjoy doing it. I don't enjoy creating original routines as much. I do have a couple that I'm really proud of. But a lot of what I do is off the shelf. I'm interested more in the angle. And for me, it was like, what do I have at my disposal? I have all this knowledge so I can make my son viral because I, first of all, know I've researched so much. My library is huge. It's like probably many of the magicians' libraries who are listening to this podcast, they know so much about it. So I'm like, what's my competitive advantage? There's a lot of people who pickpocket, which helps me get into the top 10% of what I'm doing. But then there's not everyone that does pickpocketing and climbing in a balloon. But there's also not a lot of people who can position themselves in high-end corporate events in the most elegant settings that don't, a lot of people say the wrong things. They cannot fit in a corporate setting. They're going to give you like a hack line or joke. And of course, we've all been there. I've been there for a long time. But I started realizing, watching performers that I really respected, like David Gerard. He's like the best mentalist ever. Like if you're into mentalism, he's like the top magician. I watch a lot of other performers and I get inspired by them. But there's a lot of market leaders and you have to see what they're doing. For me, I'm a marketing expert. I look at unconventional strategies, and I'm also on Quora and I'm on these other platforms that tech people are on. I'm a little bit more like a tech magician.
Because you got a niche. I can tell you with producers, once you've pitched them, so I had a guy that worked for, this is back in the 90s, Yves, it was French name of Yves. Yves worked at, I forget which one came first, but there was Guinness Book of World Records TV show and Ripley's Believe It or Not TV show. And so they all follow the leader. I'm telling you about those industries. Once one does a reality show about brides who are underwater and have to marry a naked guy who's also a bull toad, the next show is called Bull Toad or Love. Like they cannot think an original thought. So the minute it went on the air, somehow, maybe because I was one of the few people in the late 90s with a decent website and video, found me. Put together some pitches for which one, I don't remember, but let's say Ripley's. For Ripley's. Didn't work. They didn't pick up any of them. They did other stuff, but he had something at the meeting to bring up. Then he got hired by the next one, Guinness Book of World Records, let's say. Guess who he called? Like immediately. And so there was this immediate, I had that relationship. And the same thing happened. I pitched a bunch of stuff and nothing came of it. But I'll guarantee that guy 15 years later is a similar story about talking to the fire eater, about going to 2 different pitch meetings over and over and over. I still got that fire eater guy. He wants to do the world's largest yada yada. He's got this idea, this idea, this idea. Then in his next meeting, day 1, what do you got in your pocket? Welcome to the team. What do you got to produce? Well, I got this fire eater guy. He can juggle chainsaws and then balance a barbecue grill on his face. He does that, no problem. And so all that kind of stuff carries with you. That relationship, they need it too. It isn't just on our end that we need this relationship. They're going into a high-pressure job. They're usually young. They burn out quick. And they need something day 1. Hey, welcome to the team, Dan. What do you got for the show this week? And you're like, I'm 22. I don't know what to do. If you got a magician in your pocket, you're like, I got a guy that reads minds. His kid picks pockets. What? His kid picks a pocket? What do you mean? Like a thief? Like what's the street urchin from Dickens? I was trying to think of the, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with Oliver Twist and couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I came up with Fagin. That's the guy who is the guy who trains them. My brain went, Fagin? Dude, don't go deep cut. The name of the book.
I was Googling it as we were talking. I wanted to get there. Yeah.
Okay, last minute for questions. And this is also how we tell. Let me just say thank you for doing this. When you reached out to me, I think you just saw one of these, maybe the one Richard Torres was on possibly, and reached out. I really appreciate it. And thank you to, wait 1 second. Boom. Well attended. Thanks, William, for helping promote this, because without someone to talk to and without someone to get you guys to come here, I don't do that part. My promotions are very much for ticket sales. So I often tell William, he'll say, like, are you going to post this to blah, blah, blah? I'm like, none of my people on my Freak Show and Tell page, they're all muggles, dude. They're all ticket holders. There's no burlesque performers on that page. They're all accountants, lawyers, housewives, home dads, all that kind of stuff. And so it's really helpful to have someone to email all you guys to get us a few people in the chat room to talk to. If you missed anything, this will be left up as a recording. I'll trim off the first minute or two of just BS of us tech testing everything. This will live evergreen. And then that one BuzzFeed link I'll put in the comments, so we have that. Don't let me forget that. anything else, as people start popping in questions, if you look in the comments, not the comments, the about description of this video, if you see somebody asking questions in the comments and then a week later, I'll answer those questions sort of down there. If they say, oh, I can't find the thing to sign up for LinkedIn, if people can't find the link, I'll put the link in the box that they give me to do that in.
Yeah. If anyone wants me to do a couple of research, for figuring out who you would pitch, throw that in there. I'll look. I don't know how much time I have, who the host or producers are, but someone's put their dream pitch. I'm going to look this up. So you mentioned that person, and I just did a deep dive. Couldn't find him on LinkedIn. However, there's a news anchor, and let me see who I was talking to. Dave Johnson, I think it was. You said you wanted to Chorus Entertainment. I'm not sure who Chorus Entertainment was, but when I did a deep dive on Bill Welkasha, I'm sorry for butchering his name. He is he also works with news anchor Julie Brown, which is a third connection of mine. She does the morning show on CKWS TV, which is a network that I searched for that he's associated with. So maybe somehow she can find that link. Janice Golding is a third. She was past row at CKWS TV and checks TV Chorus Entertainment. So I see Chorus Entertainment, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to click on that. There's 8 employees and 1 decision maker. It specifically says 1 decision maker, and it lets me go into their website. I'm sorry for talking fast, but we don't have a lot of time. Chorus Entertainment, we see Joe McLaughlin. He's a commercial production director at Checks TV Chorus Entertainment. He's a, quote, a decision maker, but there's 8 other employees at there. There's a general sales manager you don't want to pitch. There's a music correspondent.
They want to pitch
Senior
you.
account manager sells you ads, so you don't want her. Lindsay Biscaccia, she's a videographer and reporter. You may want to pitch her. So knowing that Lindsay Biscaya, Biscaia, she is someone that I would consider pitching. It sounds like this is really small and local, and she's probably your best bet.
And she's probably on Twitter. And you could do that tip you're talking about before about find her name, find her on Twitter, DM her on Twitter. And if they're local enough, that may be sufficient. And you don't have to waste your, you know what I mean? That was a good tip.
Yeah, and there's a cool thing about this is when you add information in there, be careful of what you add if you don't want it shared, because other people will share it. And I don't mind helping, but when you add their Twitter account or you link something, LinkedIn's network actually can see what you add. So it's data mining. So if I add something in there, my own information or something I know from someone, let's just say I say that there's a website, I can update this for them. And then I don't know what the validation is, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty strong. So she doesn't look like she's really active. It would take me 1 credit to pitch her. So you can buy a whole bunch of credits, or you can message me and we can come up with a way to talk to her or figure that out and come up with a media plan. But let's see who else. Oh, let's say her name again. Lindsay, Lindsay Biscaia. I'm searching through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see her from the general search because you might not be as connected. And I'm not sure I don't use the free that often. I'll start my search on free, and then I'll move everything to messaging or other platforms off LinkedIn. Then if I have to pay the $4, I'll end up paying the $4. But these credits store up. So if you stay the next month, you get more credits, and you can store them up.
They roll over?
They roll over,
I didn't realize that. That's very cool. Okay.
So make sure before you quit, you use all your credits. So you don't want to pay $80 for something and do a research and then roll that over. Let's see. Is there anyone else that wants me to do a deep dive into? What about you, Tom? Is there any specific media outlets you'd like to be on the cover?
It's so insular. It is so up its own butt. I can't really think of. We don't have any kind of bigs for theater. And the nice thing about being in theaters, I get a ton of free reviews. So I guess maybe try. Would you do how specific would you get for like a major market like New York Times? The reviewers there, like getting across their desk when I do shows in New York. I'm not even on their radar. They're not even turning me down. There's so many shows. There's so much noise. They don't even read my email and delete it. They just don't
Yeah.
read my email. So maybe this
So
LinkedIn can at least get me properly rejected, which is a step up for me. I'm a nobody. At least I'd be a failure. That's a step up.
So you have to understand the writing styles because they craft stories, and if you don't speak their same language, they end up rejecting you. So my dream goal is to have like the article that was written on Ricky Jay. It just had all these flourishing words that I could barely use in my own vocabulary, but like I realized that that's the type of reporter I wanted to touch because I wanted to be in the luxury market. There's a guy in Singapore who's just doing things like for Louis Vuitton and Chanel, and I've been in contact with him. But that's where I want to go because I have dominated the corporate market. So I want to go into luxury products like
Gotcha.
Ferrari and Lamborghini and perform at their cocktail parties around the world in Monaco. Because I see one or two people doing these. I've seen Julius Dean, who does pretty simple videos, but he's very young and he connects with a younger age group. And he's teaching his courses and doing magic. And he's not, like by no means is he a great magician, but he's a great video editor.
Gotcha.
He knows how to tell a story. So he's getting corporate sponsorship. So let me go back to my friend Dave Johnson. And I think we're on Facebook as friends, Dave. Are we on Facebook as friends? If you look at the company that owns I think it's Chorus Entertainment. It's a broadcast media. So I assume you're in Canada because they're based out of Canada. They have an EVP of technology. They have a lead special projects. I think Keith Robinson might be someone that you might want to follow. Don't pitch him because I feel like he's more like a business guy behind Chorus. So you have to kind of figure out what does the company look like, their business structure, who's doing what, and who's involved in what. If you pitch Keith, you're going to get a rejection letter. But I think he has people under him. So follow him on his feed and speak his language.
And LinkedIn isn't as noisy as Facebook. When I see people it'll say like Dan Chan has just done something, blah blah blah. Congratulate him. They'll sort of suggest actions for you to take. When I've done that with friends of friends, people I barely know who've added me on Facebook, and so we've ended up being friends on LinkedIn just because it defaults to say add this person. I'm like, yeah, I know him. She's a trapeze artist. I've met her a couple of times. That's fine. And there's a lot of that in the arts. People you barely know who you met at one gig, but you have an affinity for. You speak the same language. When I congratulated her there on something, she responded. Whereas I don't know if that would happen on Facebook with 20 people who are muggles who don't really matter as much. It's more weighted, I would think. So if you follow this person on, LinkedIn and start just even participating in their feed, if you're just like going through everybody's feed and like, congratulations, like this thing, love this thing, they share a link, you reshare it. If you're just participating with them, this used to work on Twitter, by the way. This used to work great on Twitter. Back when Leo Laporte was the number one person on Twitter before Ashton Kutcher got on Twitter and it became all celebrities. Leo Laporte's a tech guy, literally the tech guy on the radio from Screensavers TV. He was number one on Twitter back when I joined. And it used to work. If you retweeted someone from the local paper twice, they followed you. They noticed that. I think LinkedIn may be like that. Every button has a lot more heat than Facebook or Instagram or Twitter now. It's the new hotness, baby. It's where everybody's going.
Yeah, I find that if someone doesn't have a lot of followers and you click like on it, they're going to pay attention to you, so you're going to be on the radar.
I do.
And that is something.
It would work
it's
for
social
me.
capital.
It would 100%. I would fall for that. If I were posting stuff and you were liking it, I would look at your page and I see like the image. I'll go back to it real quick. That image of you with the cards. I'd be like, okay, got it. This dude's a magician. Hey, wait a minute. Don't I need a magician? That would totally work on me. I would completely fall for that as a reporter. And I wouldn't think you'd tricked me. I would think you would just, you stroked my ego.
We're building
That's
a
how you get
relationship.
anywhere in life. You stroke my, hey, you're so smart. You're such a good writer. Would you like to write about me? Yes, of course. You're right. I am so smart and a good writer. I would love to write about you.
Yeah, Dave Johnson, if you can promote this for us, that would be great. I know that you have been writing in a lot. I love the interaction. So a printed press. Oh, with printed press, it's so much easier. You can go to the news outlet, but you probably it's for you. You probably want to craft your story, get a lot more smaller things, local media before you pitch the big boys, because you might not yet be ready to pitch the big boys. You might not have a story that's worthy on a national platform. So for me, BuzzFeed for me was the perfect pitch, because they were at one time really, they're a little bit more spammy now, like the advertisements. But before, they were really legitimate, less ads on the sides, and it was actually newsworthy. So like USA Today, it's crummy now. You look at USA Today, the guys I've been pitching out, I asked them, how much would it cost for paid placement? And they're quoting me a lot of money. And certain ones I'm asking, I want to be in Fortune, Forbes, and whatever. And they're like telling me, oh, we can give you a web presence on there for $5,000, but we can get you print in USA Today. And I'm like, oh, so it's a pay to play. So you kind of figure they don't have a business model anymore. They don't have legitimacy for a lot of times. So you can buy space, you can buy the ad, and so it looks like advertorials all the time. So it's less trusted. I don't trust USA Today just because someone says they can get me on for $5,000. Like, even if I don't have something, I'm like, the PR companies you got to watch out for are guys who can get PR for dentists. There's nothing special about dentists. When they're pitching, that's their case studies, and they want to charge me that much money, that's a sign that you just run. Do not work with PR companies like that. And they are, quote, PR professionals. I'm like a magician, and I do better PR than them.
That's a good point. Yeah, if they're working with people.
Every single weakness about that.
That's a good point. All right, ready to wrap it up? Anything you didn't cover that was on your list of stuff?
I've got a ton of things that I did not cover, to be honest with you.
Do you want to hit them real quick? I mean, it doesn't cost any more to do YouTube Live for 9 hours than it does for 1 hour. I mean, yeah, if you want to go, throw it out there.
If people are with us, I don't mind. I can go on forever. I feel like I'm giving a lot of value. I love what I'm doing. I love hanging out with you and building this relationship. The more time you spend with someone, the more they'll remember you. Like, if I become like the guy who's talking to you for 2 hours versus everyone talking at 1 hour, you're going to always remember me. So one part of sales is, if you can keep them on the phone longer than 15 minutes, you probably sold them. If you can just talk, but without them being rude, because most smart people will hang up. So I know I can sell someone. It's just a matter of, once we get past that 15 minutes, are they going to pay me $500, $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000 for it? There's a
psychological name for that, because I've learned that from studying. So I study scams and frauds. A lot of the seances is on scams and frauds. And there's a thing in poker too, where the more money you spend, the harder it is to pull you out of the cult, the multi-level marketing scheme, the scam, the whatever, the huckster. You get invested literally, but it also makes you metaphorically invested as well.
And that's the problem with webinars now, because a lot of webinars are scams. They're scammy. Like, they tell you one bit of information that you could have found elsewhere, but if you follow it, it might change your life, but you need a lot of little things. And sometimes if they drag it out, you end up emotionally attached to it, where you're wanting to figure out the rest. And maybe there is something. Some of these guys have some things that are like hard to justify, but after you spend $10,000 with them, they're like, there might be that one thing that you learn from. And not everyone's ready for a $10,000 coaching like I am, because I've had mentors and I've had a lot of things that I've learned from hiring the best of the best in my industry. But one thing is, most people, I realize, they don't want to pay consultants. They don't want to invest in themselves, and they don't want to do the hard work. You can either accelerate your career by hiring a PR guy who knows what he's doing, or doing it yourself, which you have to have an expectation of it'll take 2 to 5 years. Once you start
learning a new job
of that on your radar, you're going to need to hone your pitch, even if you're Axir. So like, there's certain people I can say, like, you're an Anthony Gatto, or you're any guy who's been on America's Got Talent.
Wait, who's Anthony Gatto? Sorry, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Anthony Gatto. Is this a magician?
He's the world's best juggler, or he was the world's best juggler.
Okay. I should know him. I'm a juggler. I have no excuse.
He's like 9 and 11 balls. Just Google Anthony Gatto. He's retired now. He was performing with Cirque du Soleil. He was the highest paid juggler.
Seen him. Yeah.
Yeah. Or a Bella Knock, or any of these. If you're of that level, hiring someone like me to work with your PR would be great, because you do what you do well, but you probably don't know how to pitch media. So it depends on where you're at. If you're making $2,500 a show, spending for a consultant $250 is the best thing you could do. Most guys are like, oh, I learned about Fiverr and I'm going to use some cheap guy in India to do this.
Does that
They don't.
exist?
Okay, there's Fiverr and Freelancer.
Well, I know those,
and
but like a person like in Pakistan who's going to help you with promotions here in America?
well, they'll say they'll write your copy or they'll do a lot
Oh,
of like it's pretty bad, but like you can start there, but if you pay for a professional, you're going to have professional results. But the thing I'm trying to say is quite often as magicians, entertainers, we're too cheap to invest in a professional because they have the learning curve. Like even if I taught you all this stuff on LinkedIn, it'll still take you 2 years to do it, to be honest with you. It's not like I'm giving out like a secret because you're going to have to do deep dives and you're going to have to face that rejection. But get used to that rejection because those rejections are going to be the things that no one else sees.
I think it's hard
You're
to see the
gonna
light at
be
the end of the
rejected.
tunnel sometimes.
Yeah.
You think, well, I'm going to spend $1,000. What do I get for that? It becomes kind of hard to see it increasing your fees or whatever, your attendance or whatever. It's a tough investment sometimes to make psychologically. That's why I started doing these. Was all the people who were ripping off people with marketing surveys, marketing webinars. Like you said, they're not $10, they're $200, and I'm like, for what? I don't see you on the road. I know who's out there. You're not out there. You're not selling out 300-seat theaters because I know everyone who's doing that, and you know what I mean. So I would see these people doing these lectures, and I'm like, you're nobody. You can't tell me how to sell at a theater, or I would know your name. I know people who are doing it on the nobodies who are selling out theaters. My peers, I know all their names. Pretty much internationally in the English speaking markets. So like, I would see somebody talking about how to sell theaters, and I'm like, who the F are you, bro? Like, you're what? Where? Show me a single sold out theater that I've heard of.
That's very much the case. And a lot of times people, intentionally stay below the radar, and they're just waiting to break out, or they don't want people to copy them. So like when I was doing stuff, I wanted everyone to know that I do pickpocketing because when they couldn't hire Apollo Robbins, who probably charges 10,000 or 25, I don't know what he charges, but he's the world's best. He's the world's best pickpocket.
Gotcha.
So when people couldn't hire him in Las Vegas, I would sometimes go to Las Vegas to do shows, but people never hear about me because I'm not an industry leader.
Right.
I'm the guy who's kind of like, there's a business concept called first mover advantage.
Yeah.
And there's also a second mover advantage too, because a first mover advantage is like guys who are innovating and R&Ding things. They're spending a lot of time researching it. To create something, that's the hardest thing. To copy it, you can just reverse engineer things.
That's the iPod.
And that's what China's doing to everything. They're reverse engineering it, but they have a larger market and they have more people and capital. So one thing is, I want to move from being a follower to a leader, and that takes a lot of time. That takes market dominance. That requires to be a leader, you need to give, and that's why it's my purpose to come onto podcasts like this. I did a lot of podcasts in my Facebook fan page, Dan Chan, Billionaire's Magician. I listed a lot of the podcasts I've been on, and I slowly gave more and more and more value. But in order to build your tribe, you have to give out your best secrets, because people are going to come back around. They're going to help you later. But if you think it's the one thing that I don't get into politics a lot, but it's not always a win-lose situation. And what I feel about our current president is he's toxic because he thinks that there's only one way to win. And the other thing I realized is I also went to one of his seminars. I didn't pay for it, but I saw what it was. So I realized that, hey, this is, this was a boiler room. If you've ever been in one of those high pressure sales things, I love watching them because I love, seeing how they close you at the end of the day. And I realized that he just plopped his name on the seminar, Trump University. I went to the sales thing and I was watching people try to sell grandmas on courses that they could never use. So that was just kind of interesting.
It's got to be remarkable. I wish there was a documentary. There's got to be a documentary about that somewhere, like that particular.
There is.
Not just that, but like the real
Netflix.
estate thing for a while was a common scam. That was a common theme. So it wasn't just Trump doing it. It was everyone. Real estate. Flipping houses was a TV show. You're going to flip, make easy money. And the predatory, like you're talking about, where they would get grandma in the room and just, the psychological, the heat, the air conditioning, the lighting, the clothing, the mirror behind you. They used every trick in the book. And they're just shysters. They're just sociopaths. They're living human scorpions just looking for the next victim. And it's crazy. Yeah, so I hope someone out there recorded all of it, because that was a spike. So again, I follow frauds and scams, right? That was a big, like, rent a hotel at the Hilton, or rent a room, a convention meeting room at the Hilton, set it up. Better Call Saul does it on his TV show. Watch Better Call Saul. Hilarious TV show, drama, great. And you see him do that thing too, where he's just renting a room, pretending he's going to give away stuff, and then setting up BS.
Hey, David, you said that David Johnson, he says, I admit I've been a second mover for my whole career, and it's taken my whole career to get where I'm in. Try grasping for higher fruit. It's easy to grab that one easy gig, but if you spend time or wake up a little bit earlier to have a long-term goal. BuzzFeed article that came out on me, it just didn't pop in there, but it changed my perspective to allow me to invest a lot more, to hire consultants and pay people for the creative ideas. When you're in performance, you're the first person they see. Don't compare yourself to any of the other guys, because they don't know who's done what. When they come to you, there's a reason why they bought your ticket. So you need to innovate, and you have to speak what your voice is. For me, mine is a little bit of elegance in a corporate setting where you don't need a comedy magician. I find that there's too many comedy magicians that are cliched. Even some of my best guys that I know, I'm not going to throw out names, but they're using things that people will call out in innovative ways. If you're, using certain gimmicks that are in magic books, and you're not doing it any differently, and people can connect the dots, you're not a real magician to me. Like, you want to do things that are a little bit farther out, and that requires challenging yourself, and that requires watching good shows and bad shows. So, like, if you're a mentalist, I would recommend watching someone like David Gerard, who's a leader in that, Colin McLeod. And that's that's truly what it's going to take to sell out your own theaters.
But David already has the beginning of a story there, right? Last year, he took the leap, opened his own boutique theater. Now, David, I don't know if you know this, in the States, in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, that was what every magician, gentleman juggler, and song and dance man did in the off-season. So in the vaudeville era, when Dan Chan here wasn't touring the circuit, he'd probably be on the Orpheum circuit, the major circuit here in America. This would be on my coast, not yours, on the East Coast. You do the Orpheum. In the off-season, picture like the rooms that like psychics have with the hand, right? A little room, third floor of a building, right? Because it's less valuable. But in theater, location is nonsense, and bullcrap. I will go down an alley, crawl in a tunnel, swim through a lake to find a show, and I have. So we don't need location. So Dan here would rent that third-story place, put in 40 seats, and just do his, probably about a 25-minute act. He had his 10 that he was doing on the Orpheum circuit. There was a killer 10. That's what paid his rent. He would add another 15, do a show 3 times a night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 on Sunday. That was what it did. It wasn't a theater, it was the Dan Chan Magic Hall. Everybody in vaudeville had those. Put that narrative together, and then do a little bit of history. Maybe someone else in your hometown did that. It was a famous Canadian magician. He used to go play in Europe, the Canadian Houdini, right? And then you go to your local press with that narrative. Man living his dream. Man paying homage to the past, moving into the future. Family in a theater. And the 90% sold out shows success that you've had, which is also a thank you to your local, and with the support of the great, let's say Ottawa, the great people of Ottawa, I've been able to not only live my dream, but a lot of the shows are sold out and everybody's having a great time. And what a great community we Canadians here in our city share, and then you start singing, "Oh, Canada," wrap it up, baby, put a flag on it and ship it. But you make, that's what the producer's going to do, the second producer's going to do. But you already have a story kind of unfolding right there, And so that's what you pitch. That's what he's talking about pitching, is you pitch your story. And then I can, as a writer, the ideas that I would be on the other end going, this is brilliant. And I happen to know all that stuff he's talking about in the 1940s and 50s. I'm a huge vaudeville nerd. You're off to the races.
Yeah, and here's a thing that I coined that I'm proud of, is my new show called Med Talks. It's magic, entertainment, and deception based on TED Talks. I realized that
That is
I was
cool.
yeah, I was copying all these magicians talking about certain things. I was performing less, but I wanted to speak my own voice a little bit more. That's what I love. If I wasn't doing magic, I'd be watching TED Talks. So I wanted to intersect that. People are doing things similar, but I think I was the first person to coin the word med talks.
No,
And
it's
I
a
just
good
started
idea because it
teaching that.
limits you to 15 minutes, a single topic. You know what I mean? Like it really has you hone in and give your one. I did a TEDx talk, which follows the similar rules, just much smaller, and they really help you walk through the process. Especially, I was the only two. There was an actor, but only two of us had really done regular public speaking. And so some people were really scared. They wanted to do it as a bucket list, but they were scared to do it. So at least with Med Talks, you'll have less of that. But they help you. But I guess it wouldn't be, no, I guess if you got a guy who does restaurants his whole life, then you put him on stage in front of 100 people. It is different once those lights hit your face. It is different than doing walk around, or a street performer, even being on the stage all dressed up and clean. Everybody's in the room looking at you and you're like, ha, hey, everybody, I forgot my first line.
Talk about what you're passionate about and talk about what you're an expert at. Stay to what you know. If you stay to what you know, people will trust you because you'll have that authority. You won't sound like you're faking it. When it sounds like you're faking it, people will run. So the problem is that there's too many fakers out there, half experts, or they don't know everything. And I don't know everything, but when you don't know something, you have to be transparent to say, hey, I'm not the right solution. If someone's not the right solution to buy my product, keep that relationship going with them and it'll lead somewhere. They're going to boost your credibility. If trust is the commodity, that's the biggest commodity that you have to have. And I realized that I did not invest enough in my relationships in the beginning, building authentic relationships, because I was always looking at people as competition. And that's one of the most negative mindsets you can have is you're looking at someone, oh, he got it, so I don't have it. Think about what makes you unique. No one's going to steal med talks in the Bay Area, but tech people and influencers love TED Talks. So if I tell them, hey, I've got a med talk that'll fit in, they don't care if I'm doing a 45-minute magic show. They're going to jump on a 5-minute med talk, probably pay me a lot more than a magic show just to find out how the brain works. And I love writing about how the brain works. And I understand that because I understand magic and illusions from a very unique perspective. I also have a very unique business background because when I work for Airbnb, Twitter, and I'm going to post the slot, like the amount of corporate entertainers that I've worked, the amount of corporate entertainment that I've done makes me an expert in my field. Working for Google 25 plus times and all these other places. So it's important that you can speak their language. I'm not just a magician. I understand them, their stock prices, their business model, and I spend time on their websites more than if I were to spend time on a magician's websites now, because I am a business entertainer and I'm not just throwing out keywords. I connect with them on a business term because I've had that PayPal pre-IPO experience working there 13 months. I know how boring it is and I know how they think. I know that they want to reverse engineer everything. So
this is what trade show performers have done for years. They've said, I come from the tire industry and now I'm working a trade booth selling Goodyear to people, but I grew up with a dad who was a mechanic. I sold tires for 2 years. Now I am the salesperson in this booth. So that ancillary, what you're talking about is moving your expertise over. Like, yeah, I was a chef at one point, and I do a lot of science-y kind of stuff in my show. It's an entirely science show. And so that background in applied sciences is what you call a culinary degree. That background in applied sciences helps me a lot with getting medical and engineers at my shows. Love them because they sense the nerd in me. They get the idea of like, oh, this guy's a dork like me. And you're just moving over. So you're looking at what you have, and then these horizontal and vertical integrations you can do within your business. Let's wrap up just because I don't know how many people will watch beyond this point, and I want to save some of these points you've got for other. Yeah, absolutely. You should definitely get in touch with William by doing the Well Attended podcast. Have you done one yet? Have you been on that, Dan?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't done the Well Intended podcast, but I do have aspirations to do that. I feel like at one point in time that was one of my goals to do. I just put it on the back burner. So he told me about this right here. So I just really wanted to
No, I'm happy to have you on. It's fantastic. It really, I
to
mean,
jump on.
especially it's sometimes hard to get cross pollination between disciplines, but because I think you and I are in very different fields. But that LinkedIn thing is friggin' brilliant, man, and it's
Yeah.
definitely a thing that I'm either going to use or just save up money and hire you to use for me. But it's definitely a thing that, like, yeah, it can help people break that ground in ways they couldn't before. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on and doing this. Dan Chan Magic is down below you. And then I'll put that BuzzFeed article in the description of this video. You'll see it down below if you look where links go. Any last place where people should find you? Should they find you on LinkedIn? Should they add you on LinkedIn?
Find me. You can see my magic stuff on Instagram. I post a lot on YouTube as well. LinkedIn. It's you should see what I'm doing. I don't claim to be an expert at LinkedIn. Being social, I'm an expert at pitching on LinkedIn.
Right.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So I'll be very clear with you. I follow Bridget and some other HR people, and I'm thinking along a different way. So I might share and reshare posts, but that's probably not what you want to look at me for. You can kind of my best thing is hitting me up for marketing strategies that are a little bit unconventional, things about metrics and how to gather a following, but also looking outside, creating your vision or what you're passionate about outside and bringing it into your shows and talking about who you are. My show is all about experiences that I have had. I used to do Hundy, but not talk about it. I got out of a parking ticket when I did Hundy, and I talk about David Copperfield, and I talk about true stories that resonate. I'm not like Copperfield, who talks about like a fake story about, and I love Copperfield, but I don't talk about like this story about me wishing to see snow. We know it's in a fairy tale land, and only he can do that, and he has a specific vision. And I realized early on, I'm not a Copperfield. You have to find out who you are and tell that story authentically. If you're telling someone else's story, you're gonna get lost in. You're gonna get
You're going
lost.
to be a copy. I've had people steal my material,
Yeah.
and they try and do my material on stage. And what I find is what I'll hear from the underground, it fizzles because you're not going to do my. It makes no sense. I wrote that. Those are my jokes. That's my story. And so with if you're talking about yourself, then you are the primary source. And then when someone
Yeah.
tries to copy you, they discover one, they're not getting the laugh, or two, they're not, they don't feel it, like, because they're not sharing a piece of their soul. And a lot of times that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing on stage is like, I'm telling you this story because I give a shit about this story, man. I care about this. And at least I did when I wrote it, 3,000 performances ago. This is part of me that I want to share with you. And it really gives you an advantage writing if you're talking about you and your family. It makes it very difficult for me to steal that when I don't have a kid that picks pockets.
Yeah.
So I can't do that bit, like I
Yeah.
can't tell that story as a performer.
Yeah.
All right, so
Thank you very
so
much.
my pleasure. Yeah, we say the same
Let's
thing at
do
the same
this
time.
again, maybe in 2 years. Maybe there's going to be a couple of people who would have more questions.
Yes.
I think my LinkedIn strategies will develop, and I might not think about the same way about LinkedIn 2 years from now. So let's follow up and let's keep this conversation going. I'm glad, Dave Johnson, you got a lot of goat out of this. I'm glad
happy to help. Yeah. I hope to one day come to Canada and go to the theater. I'm a big fan. I live in Chicago, so Canada's not that far away, and I cut through Canada when I go from Detroit to Buffalo, and I perform in London, Ontario at a college fairly regularly. I'm a big fan of your country, my friend. We couldn't be luckier to have the neighbors we have here in the States. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate your time. You guys have fun. Stay inside. Stay safe. Save lives. We'll get through this. We'll do more podcasts. Bye.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, William.